flex on the chin. Just keep your head down and carry on. You fight like hell, turn the other cheek. It's what separates the strong from the weak. And that's just the way that the line gets drawn.
Hey guys, welcome back to 10 Minute Misconduct, our unofficial FPHL podcast. We got so much exciting news for today, but most importantly, we have Daniel Amesbury joining us, Diamond Hands himself. We also have Ed, who's representing our northern team up in Michigan, and we've got Lee, who's a little bit of a jack of all trades when it comes to a lot of the hockey stuff. So, Lee, do you want to touch on something that's pretty sensitive, but we want to make sure we mention ahead of time?
Yeah, this past weekend, St. Ignatius, it's a college prep high school in outside of Chicago. Their bus this weekend got hit by a suspected drunk driver driving a semi-truck. For me, as a retired truck driver, that really, really bothers me that, another truck driver would drive essentially impaired. And the fact that it's affected my other passion, which is hockey. And these kids, these are high school kids. These aren't pros. They don't sign up for these dangers. That really, really bothers me. And our thoughts and prayers from the whole hockey world is going out to those kids and their family, and hopefully, speedy recovery for all of them. Thank God, no fatalities, but a couple serious injuries, and our thoughts and prayers are with all the players, the families, and the entire team and the entire school and community.
Can I take a moment of silence for them? To wish them well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Guys, we are very, very proud to have our first ever guest. When this man agreed to come on the show, I was ecstatic. I couldn't wait to tell everybody. So, everybody, please welcome. This guy's been playing pro since 2011. Started out in the Fed. Won the first ever Ice Wars King of the Rank, Diamond Hand Daniel Amesbury. Welcome to the show, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, let's start out from the beginning. You started your pro career then it was the FHL in the Fed with Danbury, I believe, or not Danbury, Danville. So
Yeah.
tell us the difference from the league from then to now. Was it 11, 12 years later? How has it changed?
Yeah, so I would even say just in general, the game and how it's changed. I started, like you said, I think it was maybe 2011. I would have been 21, fresh out of junior. And in the Fed back then, it was pretty tough, pretty gritty. Definitely wasn't as skilled as what you see today. But I think it's just how the game's evolved in general. The next generation, the younger guys, they're way more, one of my ways of explaining it is the generation I come from, we didn't really do skills practice, and we didn't really work on, tons of special hands drills and trying to learn how to toe drag and all that stuff. Whereas now that's just common practice. And you can see it when you see how people handle the puck and stuff. So the game in general has changed in that sense. Obviously the physicality's changed a little bit. You can, back when I started in the Fed, there was a lot more clutching and grabbing, a lot more physical. I think it was more of a dump and chase kind of grittier game. But yeah, it's cool to see how the game's evolved. There's some things obviously I miss, but there's some things that I really enjoy about the new game. So yeah, it's definitely pretty crazy for me to leave the game for the amount of time that I did and come back and expect to see the game that I left and it being I wouldn't say completely different, but a very different game. So
It seemed like fighting had kind of almost went away in the entire sport for a while. Like the last 2 or 3 years, it seems to be making a bit of a comeback. What, as far as that game evolving, it's like you seem to be one of the ones that you're a fighter, but you kind of missed, the age. You were at the tail end of the enforcer, the being valuable, and now you're coming back where it's kind of made a resurgence. Tell us, what are your thoughts about that?
yeah, so like I think you're right in saying like I caught the tail end of it. When I was in the Central League, there was every team had a couple guys. You needed it was such an important role, and I think it still is a very important role, a very effective role. But there's a big difference. Even when I was in the Central League, you still had to be able to skate. If you couldn't skate and you couldn't keep up, you just wouldn't be there. Whereas, maybe 5 or 10 years earlier than that, you'd have the guys, you could just kind of sit on the bench and play your 1 or 2 minutes a game, if that, and go out to fight. Whereas when they made it, you only got 10 forwards now. So as a 10th forward, like, you don't have that whole third line. You got one extra guy that, you need that guy to rotate through. If a guy's in the penalty box, you're playing. So it's a little different than it was in that sense, but I did catch the tail end of it, and also being in the Central League, the Central League was double A pro, so it was equivalent to the East Coast Hockey League. They had similarities in skill, but differences in style of play, I would say. But going from the Central League, I stepped away from the game in 2014 and went back to Canada. I had been playing lacrosse, box lacrosse, Canadian lacrosse the whole time. And then now I come back, and I would almost say it was a culture shock when I got down here, because I was like, what's going on? There's a couple things that happened, and then I had to go back, and I honestly had to go back and read the rule book. It's not like I went through the whole rule book. There's specific things that I had to look at. And from what I was taught growing up and what I played my whole life, some of the rules are a little bit different now. And, that's just something that, it is what it is. The game's changing. But yeah, I think it's definitely a different game now. Very, very, a lot more skilled, a lot quicker. You see it at every level, like even my junior league back home that I played in when I was young. When I go watch those games now, I'm like, man, it's way quicker hockey, but same thing, not as many hits. Guys are cutting the middle all the time with their heads down, no consequence, So it's like I say, it's a different game. You're not cutting the middle in the Central League with your head down. I guarantee you that. So.
Since you brought it up, not many people might realize that you played pro, well, they call it box lacrosse. And there's fighting in box lacrosse. Kind of tell us what the difference in a lacrosse fight and a hockey fight. I heard you describe it a certain way one time. I want you to kind of tell the audience.
Yeah, so to me, all the respect in the world to anyone fighting in any discipline, but to me, I got into lacrosse fairly late. I was surprised how it went, but I ended up getting in a pretty good spot. I got drafted like 11th overall back home. And then I just started, I was like, here I am. Well, I can play back in my hometown. I can go to work. And so it was great. I got to play. And yeah, when I started, same thing. I'd say it's not, I don't want to say it's just the sports that have gone softer that are changing, but it's just the world, I would say, is changing because it's all sports. But, when I first started, it was obviously a lot more gritty, but it's still a tough sport. And the fights in lacrosse in comparison to hockey are a little bit different. So, you're on your feet in lacrosse. So it's a lot more similar to a street fight, but you're still in a jersey. So you're attached to the guy. You can't go anywhere. It's pretty intimidating. Guys can punch a lot harder. You're on your feet. If you get rocked in a lacrosse fight, if you get rocked in a hockey fight, you slip and fall over. The fight's over. Whereas in lacrosse, you get rocked. You're still standing on your feet. Generally takes a lot more to fall over and land on your ass. So like a guy can almost hold you up if you're rocked, and he might not even know that you're rocked and still be going. So lacrosse fights, I think for myself, like, I don't think you run into as high of caliber fighters. I think like in hockey, there's just more players, more leagues. So there's going to be a higher caliber of fighting. But to me, a lacrosse fight is a little bit more intimidating in general, especially when you run into the tougher guys, just because you can punch that much harder being on your feet, and you don't just slip and fall when you get hit. So, so another dynamic, another thing, like I'm a total geek when it comes to fighting. Like I love the technical side of it. I love breaking it down. I love watching videos. It's just like a science to me, and I really enjoy it. So the one thing that I kind of discovered over the years is like in a lacrosse fight, you don't have to really hold the other guy up like you do in a hockey fight. In a hockey fight, you're almost dancing. You're working together to hold each other up as you're fighting. So when you're doing that, you're actually able to kind of grab a guy and tie him up a little bit more because you're holding each other up. Whereas in lacrosse, the one thing I always notice is if you try and grab his arm or you try and tie a guy up, they're so much stronger on their feet that they're able to break the grab a lot easier and still have stability. Whereas in hockey, it's tough to get the strength to break the grab because you're still trying to hold each other up. So generally speaking, a lacrosse fight's more of a grab at the neck, string each other out, and kind of just trade big shots one for one kind of thing. It's not as technically sound, or as you wouldn't see as much grappling, I would say, in a lacrosse fight, or as much like, I want to say you guys have seen Schmitty fight. Schmitty fight's a pretty technical game. He likes grabbing on the elbows, tying guys up, switching, cross grabbing and stuff like that. It doesn't really work in lacrosse. Like that's how I always fought. Like that was my style when I was in Columbus, and going back into lacrosse and trying it, it just didn't work. So it's a little bit different. Like I say, I can personally say lacrosse made me a lot tougher and a lot harder headed and calloused my mind a little bit more. Whereas now I'll fight, like I'll go into Augie fight. I don't care. I'll fight George Larocque. I really could care less. I'll fight anybody on the ice. Whereas I didn't have that when I was here before. So I think that lacrosse really helped me develop as a fighter. And then obviously just, when you're on your feet, it kind of forces you into learning how to throw proper punches and stuff like that, which is kind of transferred over to hockey as well. So.
Well, since you brought up Columbus, you moved from the FPHL to the SPHL with the Cottonmouths, and it actually won a championship your rookie year. So kind of tell us the transition to Columbus, that team, and what it was like to win that championship.
Yeah, so actually it's kind of funny. So the first thing that happened was I played defense my whole life, all through junior, went to the Fed, was playing defense. I think I had 7 games, 5 fights, 2 goals, 2 assists. So I was doing decent in the Fed as a defenseman. And then, we get back to Danville after I think a 20-day road trip. And I remember, we were grinding it out in the Fed. Danville was kind of a little bit of a grind down there. Our living situation wasn't great. And I just remember calling my dad and being like, hey, man, like, I don't know. Like, I might just have to go back to work. Like, this is crazy. Like, we got like 10 guys in this house right now. And, he's like, just don't worry. You're going to get called up. Like, you're doing good, blah, blah. Just don't worry. He's like, just plug away, just keep going, keep grinding. And then the next day, my dad phones me and he says, hey, somebody called the house looking for you. His name's Brad Prefontaine. He said he's with Columbus. And I was like, Columbus? Like, I'm thinking Columbus, Ohio, right? Like, I didn't even know there was a Columbus, Georgia, So right away, I'm like, Columbus, okay. I'm like looking up Columbus. I'm like, what team's in Columbus? And I'm like, can't figure it out. Like, I'm like, who's in Columbus? So I end up calling him. Brad Prefontaine, he's the assistant coach of the Columbus Cottonmouths in the Southern Professional League. And yeah, they ended up bringing me down there. But the funny thing about the story is they thought I was a forward. So I get down there and I think we were at practice and we go out and, we go to do the first drill and I line up with the D. And Jerome, Boom Boom, who's still the coach in Columbus, he goes, Ames, what the fuck are you doing? you know, like, why are you lined up there? And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm a D-man. And then you could just see all of them just like look at each other and they're like, oh, fuck. And then all the coaches had like a little powwow and they're like talking to each other, like, what the fuck are we going to do? And then Boom Boom comes out to me. He's like, hey, Ames. He's like, you're a winger now. Get on the wing. And I'm like, oh, shit. Like, I'm not even sure I never played forward. Okay, all right. This is going to be really a grind, you know? So that was like the first challenge for me is like, you know, you already have the stigma of like being a fighter and everybody's like, oh, this guy sucks. Like, this guy can't play the game. And now I'm going to a new league, a higher league, and I'm playing a position I never played before. So it was like I was learning a whole new game. Like every day Jerome was just grinding it out with me after practice. He'd stand behind the net and he'd just rip pucks around the boards and I'd have to pick them up on my backhand, chip them out. And he would just do this till I was dead every day till I could figure it out and just learn the basics. So yeah, it was a pretty interesting start in Columbus. We had a really good group of guys and I think I ended up finishing that year, I think, with like 40-something fights. I think 43 fights in 41 games or something like that. Like, I was fighting every game, and the fans were amazing there, you know. So much fun times in Columbus with the fans. And the team was, like I say, we had a really incredible bond, and that's generally the secret sauce for winning a championship. And we took it all the way, and I was lucky enough to be a part of a championship run in my first season in the SP.
Anybody else got anything?
Yeah, I was curious. I wanted to hear. So Ice Wars was fucking awesome. I unfortunately didn't get to watch the first go where you won the championship, but I did get to see the second series, I guess, and watched you defend the title. And I mean, I see why they call you Diamond Hands, but like, tell us about Ice Wars. How'd you get involved in it? And yeah, let's hear about that.
It's kind of funny because I was actually talking with AJ about this today. We were just kind of BSing at the boxing gym, and we were just talking about how weird it is how I'm here hanging out with AJ, and like, it was less than a year ago, I was like in his inbox on Instagram, sending him videos, like trying to get him to sign me for Ice Wars. So yeah, so basically how it happened was, you know, this is something that me and my friends kind of always BS'd about. We always talked about it. I always said, man, it's really too bad. I got this niche skill, but there's not really much I can do with these days. It's too bad there isn't like some sort of hockey fighting league or lacrosse fighting league I could join. So it was kind of always a thing that we kind of joked around about. And I did always have it in the back of my mind because I knew that there was the Ice Warriors that happened in Prince George back home, I think in 2006, that Charlie was a big part of. So it was always in the back of my head. I was like, man, if this ever comes up. I wish it had happened a little earlier when I was younger, but I'm happy to at least have been a part of it and still a part of it. And basically what happened was my friend called me one day and he's like, dude, he's like, you know that AJ Galante, like, you seen that documentary? I was like, yeah. He's like, go on his Instagram right now and watch his story. So I looked at it, I pull up his Instagram. I'd obviously followed him after seeing the documentary and stuff, and I was like pretty interested already in all that. And he basically dropped a big hint saying, hey, we're doing this, we're going to try and do this, like no promises yet, but it sounds like we're going to have this, you know, new hockey fighting tournament and this and that. And so that's kind of how it started. And he had no clue who I was, so I just right away, as soon as I seen it, like from the first time I seen it, I DM'd him. I got in his messages and I just hounded him. He'll tell you if you guys got to get him on here ever. Like, he will just, like, I was in his inbox sending him lacrosse videos, hockey videos, sending him my hockey DB. I'm like, dude, I don't care how big they are. I don't care who is in this tournament. Like, I'll destroy everybody. Like, this is my game. This is what I do. And, you know, I don't care. Like, even if I lose, like, I'll put on a show, man. Like, and he was kind of like, we've talked about it too. He was kind of like, man, who is this guy? Like, and then as it went on, you know, he started to see, like, you know, okay, we're going to do like a heavyweight division. And he's like, man, like, these guys are pretty big. Like, are you sure? And I was like, dude, like, I don't care, like, how big they are. Like, sign me up. Like, I'm in, man. So it started out like that, and before you knew it, the conversation started getting real. And then as the conversation started to get real, I had to sell the old lady on it, right? I got a couple young kids, I got a young family, so now I gotta convince the wife here. Hey, hon, like I might get back into the game here and have a couple of fights. And originally, the original thing I didn't know was a tournament format, so I was just signing up for one fight. So that's how I sold her. Maybe that was what AJ's plan was, but it worked out because I said, "Hey, just one fight. It's just one fight. Like, just this has been like a bucket list thing for me." Like, so then she's like, "Are you okay? Like, if you really want to do it, like, I'm okay with that. Like, I know you can handle yourself, but like, she wasn't super fond about the idea, but seeing my passion and stuff, I think it grew on her as time went. So it started out as one fight, and then as the time went on, then we had these meetings, and next thing you know, now it's a tournament. So now it's like, oh yeah, by the way, you're gonna have to fight 3 times in one night. So now it's 3 fights, and then so I ended up signing. I think I was the first guy to sign. I had no clue who was in it. I had a couple ideas of some of the guys that I might have been running into, but they really didn't know who it was gonna be. So I signed first, and then all the names started rolling in, and I'm starting to look at the weight and the sizes as they're making little graphics for each guy, and I'm like, man, I'm giving up 40, 50 pounds to every single guy in this tournament, and I'm like, okay, well, it is what it is. So, like I say, my family is a little bit, hesitant about it at first, and then I think as everybody in my life seen, I did kind of rolling it a little bit back. I had a little bit of a struggle in my life after I retired in 2014. I went through some things, some personal stuff, and then so this was kind of a part of my comeback. Like, this was kind of a part of, I had already made the steps and started to like get my life back on track and really progress, and people had seen that. But this was kind of like a thing where I was like, I'm ready. I need to prove something to myself, and I want to show everybody around me that I'm still a professional, and I can still be a leader, and I can still work harder than everybody. And so it was an opportunity like that. And I think as my family and friends around me seen my passion behind it and how hard I was training, I was doing 2 or 3 training sessions a day. I was going insanely hard, and my whole idea was, the universe doesn't pay people unless they put in the work. So my idea was, as long as I'm working harder than everybody else in the tournament every day, the universe will pay me. The universe is not how the universe, they don't just pay, you don't just get rewarded for half-assing things. So I just kept that in my head, and I just kept working hard every day as if, when I was on the treadmill doing my sprints, I was just thinking about the other guys on the treadmill doing sprints, and it just helped me push that much harder. So as that happened, I started getting a lot more support from friends and family. And then, next thing you know, I had a ton of sponsors. I think I was I looked like a European hockey player at the first event, and family and friends supporting me in every way they could. It was like a really crazy thing, and it was I almost want to say what I went through spiritually during it with like the people around me and what I seen, like, it was life changing. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. And then now I ended up winning it. So then now, sorry, hon, I'm the champ now. I'm going to have to do it again, So
And again, and again, and again.
Yeah, so now
Can
here
you
I
describe?
am. The whole family's in Danbury, and I'm probably going to have 30 fights this year.
Oh, I believe that.
I believe that.
Can you describe that moment when you first won Ice Wars? What the feeling? I mean, everything you worked for, finally, all the hard work paid off.
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy. Like, I'm a little bit of a a little bit of a spiritual, I guess, geeky, whatever it is. But like, I had a meditation before the event, before I got into a meditation, prayer, whatever you want to call it. But I literally went through every round in my head, each round of the fights, and each event that I was winning, or each guy that I was beating, and I was in a deep meditation with my friend, and he was guiding me through feeling the exact emotions I was going to feel after I won each series. And it was really, really crazy because I did that, and what I felt during it was very real. And then as it was unfolding, I had the exact same emotions happening inside of me. So it was a really weird, strange experience, and it's very surreal. It was very unreal feeling. And then as it unfolded, as it happened every round, the confidence grew bigger, the ball was rolling faster, and then by the time I got in the final, I swear to you, you could have put any human in the planet in that ring with me. I don't care who it was. There's no way they were beating me. Like, where I was at mentally, spiritually, and physically, like, I was just in another world, and like, I came out and I was just like, there. It was crazy because I didn't have a single bit of fear or anxiety in me that whole time. And I think I got to give a lot of the credit to just the amount of time that I put in for my training, and then just my amount of time. I didn't just train physically. I trained mentally with a lot of like making myself uncomfortable in a lot of different ways and learning how to handle it. And yeah, like by the time I got there, like when I won it, it was the most, honestly, I can honestly say that was probably one of the coolest moments in my whole entire life, because not just because I won this hockey fighting tournament, because of what it meant to me and all the people that were there supporting me. I had probably like 20 or 30 friends that were there, that drove out, flew out, whatever it was, that were there, because they all seen what I had went through, and they all seen that this was my comeback. This wasn't just Ice Wars to me. This was a symbol of my success and a symbol of me coming back from a dark, dark place where not many people come back from. And so that's, I think, why I had so much support. I had all those sponsors, and all those people that were just like, they couldn't believe that, you know, where I was at 5 years earlier and to where I was at then. And I'm continuing to roll this into where I'm now in Danbury and still having surreal moments on a daily basis. So it was the best moment of my life. I can honestly say it's, other than my children being born, but like the feeling I had, just goosebumps head to toe. Like, even when I look at the picture of me with my arms up, like, I remember when they called the fight and Sawyer was done, I was just like, ripped my helmet off, hands up, and it was just like goosebumps head to toe. I seen all my friends and family there. My dad's like almost in tears, and I was like just battling tears like the whole time. Like, I'm like supposed to be a tough guy here, and I'm like, oh no, like I can't do that. Like, I can't cry. Like, I can't have a tear come out of me. I'm a tough guy. But to be honest, man, like I say, it was just what it represented for me was way more than just a hockey fighting tournament or a fight. Like, it was a fight for my life that I had clearly won at that point. So it's pretty cool experience.
Well, you had mentioned about, box lacrosse and fighting on ice. What's the difference between fighting on ice and the synthetic ice that they use for Ice Wars?
Yeah, so I originally was pretty upset about it, finding out it was on synthetic. I think a lot of the guys were. I trained on it a little bit, not as much as I probably should have, but it was when I trained on it, I was kind of like, oh shit, like this isn't ideal. And then when I got there, it was all brand new. It was actually pretty good. We had lots of glide. I was surprised. As soon as I got on it, I'm like, whoa, this is good. Like, this is really good synthetic ice. Like, this is high end stuff here. So, and then kind of what I started to realize is, like, once you get a hold of the guy, you're kind of stabilizing each other. You don't really notice the synthetic, in my opinion, anyways. Like, when you're skating around by yourself, you almost feel like you're going to toe pick because it's slower. It has more resistance, so you almost feel like you're going to fall forward. But as soon as you grab the guy and you're actually engaged, I don't find much of a difference at all. And I was actually very happy with it after the original tournament. I was very pleasantly surprised. And I honestly don't think it makes a big difference now. And I would I don't really care. It'd be nice to do it on real ice, but I don't care. However long they have to do it on synthetic for until they get into an arena. I'm sure at some point, once it grows big enough, they'll do it in an arena and they'll have real ice. But until then, you just do it with synthetic because at the end of the day, you want a good production. And if you're trying to do a good production in a small SPHL ice rink or FHL ice rink, you're not going to have it. It just doesn't have the infrastructure for pay-per-view production. You got to go to an MMA venue and set up the synthetic ice. So I think that's just going to be how it is for a bit until it grows enough where we can throw it in an arena or whatever, or a small arena where there's proper production set up. So I was pretty pleasantly surprised, honestly.
Ed, you got something?
Yeah. I know that you're. I know if you're echo right now, but I know we were talking about like the junior leagues and all that stuff. You see that are like hard hitting and all that stuff are getting harder hitting. There's a lot of like headshots going on right now in the GOJHL out in Ontario, and I'm just wondering I know about taking a headshot, then seeing the player to the next game and all that stuff. Have you ever entered a game like in your mind you don't care what the person does that you just want to scrap with them no matter what? Do you ever have like a pre-game mark on somebody that you really want to fight before you start?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's just passion for the game. That's going to happen. You play a season of hockey. There's going to be times where you get somebody's number and you maybe didn't catch up with them that game and you catch up on them with the next. It's just life in general, like sometimes you take a guy's number and you square up later. So yeah, I can honestly say that that's a thing that it's sometimes you just go right away for whatever. Sometimes you go right away just to get the boys in it. Sometimes you go right away because there's some sort of something that needs to be dealt with, you've seen it in the NHL a million times where something happened and, you don't see it as much nowadays, but remember back in the day, they'd have newspaper articles, Ty Domi and Bob Probert are going to fight this date here in Detroit. Like everybody knew it was happening because these guys had bad blood. So I can't say there's anyone in the league right now that I have any like real feuds with because I've only really played 2 games. So not obviously for me, I haven't dealt with anything like that this year. So I personally I like playing the game. I like playing within the whistles hard, and I like being able to be on. Hey, we'll go upstairs if there's beer upstairs for us to drink. I'll drink a beer with you. I love that. That's one of my favorite things about hockey. Cool. One of my favorite things about hockey is that guys are able to just let go of stuff. And to me, that's really translated into my personal life and helped me in a lot of different ways through my struggles of just being able to let go of stuff and not hang on to them. But to me, I'd rather just go and have a beer with the guy. And, I think I fought Schultz twice and, I think I fought him. Schultz. I fought him twice my last game there, and I had a case of beer waiting for him at the hotel when he got back. So, it's just a
so sometimes better just to.
He gave me a chance early on, right at the beginning of the game. He didn't have to do that, and he was a very good dude. We're in the penalty box. He said, "Hey, hats off." And to me, man, I give respect to guys like that. Anybody that's gonna give me a fight at opening faceoff in my barn, dude, that's respect. And if he wants to do that when I'm in his rink, I would give him that 110 times out of 10 because he gave me that respect. And I think that's kind of one of the things that's kind of old school mentality with me is, as a tough guy, I think we kind of also got to take care of each other in a sense where if he wants to get his team going and I have an opportunity to give him a chance and it's, a somewhat reasonable time I can do it, I'll scratch his back. But next time I need to get my team going, he's got to scratch my back. And I think that's kind of just a old school kind of rule. You might not see as much of it now, but when you do get it, it feels good to have people like that in the league. So
it reminds me third period and all that stuff where sometimes I see that fights are used as a trying to change momentum or change the tide of the game. So one team is down maybe 2 or 3 goals, and then I see Joe Pace does that a lot. It's if they're down a couple things, a couple goals and all that stuff, just throw in a fight and all that stuff just to give the fans some entertainment while they're there, especially if you're down and you're the home team and all that stuff. It's just give the home team something to be entertained with and all that stuff, and then try to change the momentum of the game, especially you see some games are creating a couple goals after a fight. The team that is now down is now all of a sudden score 2 or 3 goals and they're right back in the game. So I could see that. It's like a momentum changer, right? You can use it as momentum.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of people misunderstand what is the tool? Why is this a utility? Why does it help? There's so many different reasons that it can be effective. So I'll just get into it. I think this is a great topic to talk about while we're kind of talking while we're here. But so like a few of the things like you were saying, momentum shift is huge. You know, if your team's down 3-0, your team's flat. Like hockey's an energy game. Like I say, I'm into the spiritual side of things. I'm really into energy and I really like I feel energy very much and I give credit to what I've done in sports and stuff as well because of that. But you know, you'll see it. You as a fan, you'll see it when your team's not playing well. You look at the bench and look at their body language. Look at how they're sitting. Look at how their looks on their faces. They're flat. They have no energy. Look at the team that's on top of them. They're buzzing. The boys are talking on the bench, and you can see they got good emotion. They look alive, right? So as for me, if my team's down by 3 goals and we're flat and we got nothing going, well, if I go out and say, hey, you know, Joe, I need a tilt, man. Come on, Pacer. Like, can you give me one? And, you know, maybe he gives me one. And then my team's got some energy now. Now we're back in it. The guys are buzzing because I got in a fight or whatever, right? So I think that's just one small aspect of it, which is a very, very good tool. And a lot of people just misunderstand and they just don't know. They have no idea. They've never played a sport with passion. They never played a sport with energy like hockey or lacrosse or whatever. So they just have no idea. They just think, oh, you're fighting because you're mad. You know, I'd say maybe 5% of the time I'm fighting because I'm mad. Maybe less, honestly. Because if you're fighting when you're mad, you're dog shit at fighting most of the time because you're not thinking properly. You're not focused. So you shouldn't even be getting emotional in a fight, in my personal opinion. I try and take the emotions right out of it, and I just do what I'm there to do and keep it do what my job is. So that's one thing. And then there's also obviously just the factor of policing the game. You know, like you guys, you see it, the game. So one of the things I notice a lot about today's game is you see a lot more like dirty action behind the play with sticks or stuff like that. Like guys aren't really worried about the consequence of a tough guy coming out and beating him up or whatever, because at the end of the day, if I go out and jump a guy and beat him up, I'm probably going to get friggin' 10 games or whatever. So it's like these guys can just hide behind the refs and stick you and slash you. They'll full-blown two-hand you, and they'll go sit in the box for 2 minutes. They don't care, you know, whereas like when I played back in the day, it was like a much cleaner game as far as, you know, you're not going to see some guy running around sticking somebody, and if they did, they're going to, well, you'd obviously see it, but not as much, and if you did see it, you know, there's some sort of consequence coming, and there's some sort of worry other than a penalty. You know, if you want to hurt a guy in this league, you can bury him from behind and go sit in the penalty box. There's really there's not much other things to worry about. You know, and if
that's assuming that the referee actually sees the penalty.
Exactly. No kidding. You never know what you're going to get, right? But at the end of the day, that's just one aspect. Being able to police the game, and I think like, with the guys we got in the league right now, I think there's enough guys in the league that hopefully it cleans up the game a little bit, honestly. I really do hope that. I hope that the other guys that are on the other teams can have the ability to kind of help clean this league up a little bit, because you've seen a lot of dirty shit, man. And I don't know how many videos I've had sent to me in the past however long about, you know, really some of the dirtiest shit I've ever seen. Like, not ever, but some dirty shit going on real early in the season. So, I hope that there's guys like me can clean it up a little bit. And then, so that's just another aspect of it. And then obviously there's another aspect of it that maybe most guys don't know about, but just the psychological aspect of it where, you know, when I'm on the ice, I mean, you can see it on any team, but when you got a tough guy on your team and you know that you're well protected, you don't have to look over your shoulder. You don't have to worry about the tough guy on the other team. Everybody plays better. Everybody psychologically is a little bit bigger. And everybody plays a little bit tougher, and it gets everybody rolling, you know. And I've seen it at every level in every sport I played. You know, when I'm in the game and when I'm not in the game, you see the difference. And it goes for any team, you know. That team toughness, it grows like it grows and grows and grows, and it once it gets rolling, everybody's comfortable. They know, like, they don't have to worry about it, man. Don't worry, I don't have to handle that. I got my boy that's going to handle it, and that's like a big part of it. Just me being on the bench or just having a guy on the bench that's capable of taking care of the boys makes everybody play better, you know? And then, so I think that those are a few of the different things that, you know, having a enforcer, I guess you can call it, or a tough guy, whatever it is, on the team gives the teams an advantage. So.
Right.
So we're almost out of time, but I do want to ask you, this is your comeback to the pro hockey world. Can you tell us what made you want to have to retire? You retired, you left. Why did you retire? What kind of? And I know it wasn't exactly your decision. It was kind of almost a forced retirement. Tell us a little bit of why you left and why you're back.
Yeah, so I just had some personal issues going on back home that I had to deal with. I had some things that happened when I was younger that kind of unfolded, and I had to go home and deal with it. And then, so I went and did that and got it sorted out. But to be honest, after I left the game, there's when you leave the game and it's not necessarily on your terms. The year that I left, I had a PTO to go into the AHL to try out in the AHL. So I had played Double A. I was going to have a sniff in the A. I was on a pretty good track. I was getting called up every year. I think it was my third year pro or whatever. And I had an AHL tryout, and I had to come home, and I couldn't come back down. So I had to deal with all this shit back home. So it was really hard on me mentally, and I think that anybody who's retired from a pro sport or I would say even the military would be probably very similar too, because the big thing is, you have the boys and you have this security blanket of having the guys around every day. That's just one aspect of it. But then, there's obviously you miss the game and you don't have the game anymore. But the one thing that I think really was a really tough thing for me is when you play hockey or you play a sport, or let's say you were in the military, and the reason I bring in the military is Scott Parker, who played for the Colorado Avalanche, has a nonprofit, Parker's Platoon, and they help out ex-NHL players and ex-military because there's so many similarities between the two when they're done, when their careers are done. So one of the things is when you don't have a team anymore and you don't have direction, because your whole life you play hockey or you do this thing, you have one job and they've guided you into it, and all you got to do is this one job. And if you do that job, you got a house, you got a place to live, you got food in your fridge. So you've been guided it. You got one thing to worry about. And then so what happens is you end up, your career's over. You got a million things you could do, million different jobs to select from or to choose or paths to go down. And you're so lost. You have no security blanket of the boys anymore because they're all, you don't have 20 guys every morning that you're with. So it becomes a very overwhelming feeling, and to me, that's what happened. Honestly, that's what happened, and I got into just getting into the wrong crowds and getting into trouble. And it took me, I would say, 4 or 5 years of really struggling, depressed, really bad anxiety. I couldn't figure it out, and then really I just healed myself through working out, getting back into the game. Talking to people. The Parkers were a huge help in helping me point these things out, like what I'm sharing with you right now. Like, I wouldn't even have known that was the issue. And then when they said it, I'm like, man, that is it. Like, that is what I'm missing, I am overwhelmed. I don't know what job I want to do. I do a job for a month and I do another job for another month, And so that's what happened. And then now here I am kind of transitioning back, and now what I want to do and my whole goal of what I'm doing now is my whole reason for being here now is selfless. Like, I just want to be here to show everybody, number one, that you can come back from absolute rock bottom and be successful, and number two, that when you do that, the more you focus on helping the people around you, the less you the more momentum you gain. And I think I made a pretty good example of that, because when I started this whole thing, I write it down on paper, my intention. Like, I just want to love. Like, I was writing, like, in my first Ice Wars, like, I love Justin Sawyer. I love all these guys that I'm about to fight. I was writing it down on paper because, like, I want everybody to succeed and do well. And I think what happened was, as I had the intention of helping people around me, the universe just gifted me all these opportunities. And now here I am, playing hockey down here. There's some things that are coming up next month that I haven't really announced yet, but they're going to be pretty big. And it's just opportunity after opportunity landing on my lap. So the way I see it now is I just got to stay selfless and trying to keep proving to people that you can come back from rock bottom and sharing my story, and then I'm just going to keep moving forward. And I got really big plans of where I'm going from here, and I hope that at some point somebody can see what I've done after hitting the absolute rock bottom in a really dark place, and hopefully it motivates them to do the same.
I think I can speak for everybody when we say we can't wait to see what you got coming up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now our other co-host Taylor, he's out sick this week. He had a couple questions for you. His first question is there anybody in this league right now that you want to fight or that you're looking forward to fighting or facing off with?
I think it's kind of a no-brainer that me and Schmitty will have a couple battles this year. Probably to be expected that would be my answer. Schmitty's a really good guy. I look forward to running into him. I think we're in Columbus on December 2nd and 3rd. I got the dates marked on my calendar. I'm sure Schmitty does too. So, I'll go where the wind blows me. I'm not really for like setting things in stone or planning anything out too until the game kind of unfolds or whatever. Maybe we have a conversation and warm up. But yeah, I think Schmitty would probably be the guy that I'm looking forward to, just because honestly he's just a good dude, and I think we're just gonna have so much fun with it, and I think the crowd's gonna love it, and our team's gonna love it. And so I think probably got to say Schmitty. And obviously that kind of runs into Ice Wars too. Like, he's the king of the cruiserweight division. I'm the king of the heavyweight division. So we might have to warm up with our crowns on for that game, I think.
As
I'm
a
really
Columbus,
looking forward to going back to Columbus. Sorry, Anna.
Yeah.
oh, you're okay. I was gonna say, sorry. As a Columbus fan, I know a lot of us just absolutely love Schmitty, so I can say that having Ice Wars in common, I think it's going to be an interesting series that weekend for sure. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, having not only Ice Wars in common, but you're both played for Columbus, played in that Civic Center, and to see you back there and then you two facing off, that's going to be a goosebump moment, I think, for everybody.
That'd be cool.
I have to say personally, I talked so much shit this past season about, oh yeah, look, all the Kings come from Columbus at some point, so.
Yeah, I mean, Boom Boom and Prefontaine definitely helped me out quite a bit when I was young. But that's one thing that I was looking forward to. I was like, when I got this suspension that I'm dealing with right now, first thing I did was run to the calendar, because I was really worried that I was going to miss those games. And then I seen that I was back, and I was like, oh, like, thank God, because like I'm so looking forward to seeing all the familiar faces down there. You guys are so fun down there. I had such a blast. Like old friends that still live down there. Jerome, who's an absolute legend. Boom Boom's such a great guy. I think there's going to be a lot of people that I'm going to be kissing and hugging when I'm down there. Even after I, take the wheels off Schmitty.
You better get ready for our crowd. You better get ready, because I know the Columbus crowd, like, they're definitely going to be some signs, some heckling, but, same people would buy you a beer after the game too, for sure.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, it's going to be fun. I talk to Schmitty all the time, man. Schmitty's a really good guy, so I think it'll be good. I think it'll be good for Ice Wars. I think it'll be good for the league. I think it'll be good for Columbus, Danbury, and we'll have fun with it. And how we are, man. Like, you guys talk your trash, I'll talk my trash. We'll have a blast, and then we'll all hang out after and hug and kiss and have a beer. It's like there's nothing that beats that. To me, that's what hockey's about. And it's like I say, the game's changing. There's so many soft people in the game nowadays, but it is what it is. There's still some tough people around and tough fans around, so we know who they are, and we'll stick together.
I think Taylor had another question was, who have you fought? Have you fought anybody that literally just tagged you and rocked you, and you knew it from the moment that he got you, and you were seeing Tweety Bird flying above your head?
Yeah, I don't even know how many times that's happened to me, to be completely honest. yeah, like I've had it happen in so many different ways. Trying to think of like who, like I think I got rocked twice in Ice Wars. First fight, Parker got me once. Seen a complete flash. Tippin dropped me in the second fight. Took a second for me to get back, and then I ended up dropping him. But yeah, I've had it happen quite a bit. Generally, I've had it like probably the worst I ever had it. Who was it? I can't remember who it was, but I remember somebody was beating me up so bad that he'd hit me, and everything would go white. I wouldn't see anything, and then he'd hit me again, and then I'd be able to see again. And that happened to me a couple times in a fight. But I was still in it, and I was still kind of fighting, even though I couldn't see him, still throwing. But yeah, I mean, it happens from time to time. And
Okay, I think next.
Where do we go? There he is.
There's Lee. Okay. I think the next thing we want to touch on with the holidays coming up, we will be taking a 1 week break for Thanksgiving. So we are still going to film, but we're going to basically produce the podcast and like release it on a week delay. So there will be 1 week that we won't be here. And I know you guys are sad and disappointed. We are too. But I hope you guys enjoy your Turkey Day and everything. And then I also wanted to touch on the Chattahoochee Valley Warriors. They are a hockey team that was formed in December of 2021. They're an organization that helps veterans heal. They get together, they get a lot of their equipment donated, and they're just really a big deal for the community. So we're hoping to have them on at some point so you can hear a little more about them. As well as we wanted to mention Enchanted Coffee, Loose Leaf Coffee Co-op. They have been really amazing about donating to some raffles we've done to raise money, and they do a lot of fun stuff when it comes to guessing game scores, and if you win, you get a sample. So that's pretty cool.
And Anna, you won the sample.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
I'm going to be sending you some Costa Rica beans. You're getting some Costa Rican beans this time around. It was part of our co-op named Carlito. I figured with the C with the C, Carlito, old-time wrestler, Carlito, cool. So whatever. So eventually, Christmas is coming up and all that stuff. So if you guys really want fresh coffee, whatnot, we're going to put the link on the page, in the YouTube page, and I think we can do it on the Spotify. Our producer, Carolina, doing this, taping it piece by piece for us. So we're gonna put that link there for you, and then yeah, it's Christmas on the way. Coffee makes a great gift. If you want fresh coffee, roasted and all that stuff, I'll take care of you. I'm aiming to be the official copy of FPHL. There you go. That was my little TV plug. Back to you.
And I do want to give a special shout out to Ricky Gunn. He's a good friend of mine. He has graciously allowed us use his song, "Fight Till the Fight Is Gone." He's graciously agreed to let us use that for our theme song, and we want to give him a special shout out. Give him a listen on Apple Music, Google Music, anywhere, YouTube. Give him a listen. He's a great up and coming country music star. I call him a star. And like I said, for him to graciously let us use his theme song, I can't thank him enough.
And last but not least, certainly not least, our next week's episode guest is going to be Levi Armstrong, which former River Dragon. I'm super stoked to have him on the show. Had the pleasure of meeting him off ice. Super nice guy. So definitely tune in for that.
The newly engaged Levi Armstrong.
Yes, big congratulations. Yeah, and his fiance is absolutely beautiful, and she's just so sweet. I got to meet her when she was in town, and yeah, she's just a wonderful person. So I'm pretty excited to talk to them about that.
You got your approval, Anna, right?
Say that again.
You got your approval, right? She's great. She's nice. So
oh yeah, Dragon at heart, great girl. She loves hockey, so yeah. I mean, I couldn't think of a better match for another Dragon. So
yeah, we got some great guests lined up for you in the future.
We do.
I can say here, I got a message today. Our fourth guest. Has everybody here ever seen the movie The Goon?
I haven't, and I feel like I'm a bad
I never
hockey
thought
fan
that's
because I hear everybody talk about. I might have to do my homework this week and watch it.
yes.
Well, you're
Maybe
going to have to watch it because our fourth guest is Doug Smith, the inspiration for Doug the Thug Glatt, the character from the movie The Goon.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'll have to watch it.
And
Do some research.
our other co-host Taylor, his grandfather actually owned one of the teams that Doug Smith played on.
Wow, well, that's going to be an exciting
Wow.
episode, especially from
So
Taylor's point of view. That's cool.
yeah, I think it'll be fun. It's not quite FPHL related, but it
Hey,
is a good story. It's going to be a good interview, and I'm looking forward to that one.
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, I know we're a podcast that definitely gears towards the FPHL, but like we dabble a little here, a little there. So, yeah, it's going to be cool to have some episodes that'll just be something completely different and unexpected. So, also, as always, most of the people listening, I'm sure you guys hang out with us on the FPHL Trash Talk page. But if you don't, come check us out. Come talk shit. Come just fight us in the comments. We
Yes.
love it. We're always in there. Like if it's not me, it's Lee. If it's not Lee, it's Ed. If it's not one of us, it could be Taylor. You never know. You never know.
I mean,
You might even find a Columbus and a Thunderbird fan hanging out fighting somebody from Binghamton. You never know what's going to happen on that page. It gets a little crazy. So, bring your thick skin, but know it's in good fun.
the good news is I'm finally out of Facebook jail. I had to spend some hard time this past week. I just, back on that Facebook slammer for, I guess my mouth. So, yeah. So I'm out. I'm on probation for 24 days, but that's okay. We'll get through it one day at a time.
Yeah, and a big suggestion to you guys, use your emojis, use symbols, use spaces, use code
Yeah.
words. Even if you have to put in parentheses, I wrote this message backwards. Like there are ways to kind of avoid the algorithm where you can still talk shit.
Yes.
I've learned the hard way, so I just want to pass that on. If you have never been put in the slammer, that's how you stay out.
Yeah. Because especially, I do notice around like hot times, such as I'm not getting political, whatever, but I noticed that during the elections and during holidays, the Facebook cops, as you call them, whatever, are a little bit more on duty than they normally are. So whenever there's a little political hotbed or a holiday around, they seem to be out in force to meet their quota per se. So yeah, use spaces, periods, upset, the old calculator thing. Was it 4311 is for hell? Do something like that. To bypass it. Great point, Anna.
Yep. There you go.
All right, guys. Well, again, I hope you enjoyed your Thanksgiving. Come back and definitely check out our episodes coming up with Levi, and we've got some cool guests lined up, and we're going to keep getting more cool guests lined up. If you have some suggestions, feel free to shoot us a message. We're all pretty easy to talk to, so hit somebody up, let us know, and yeah, it's good seeing you guys, and I'm signing out.
See you.